Message to Warrior fans. Here we come. Here they come. Mac, Stone, Kalishaw, Page. Let's go.
Mac the Knife, baby. Mac the Knife. Look out for me today. I'm edgy.
Urban Meyer's announcement to retire after the Rose Bowl, both a wow and of course, after this past season, the suspension and all those reaction shots you can see on sidelines basically every game. How to remember Urban Meyer? That's the question. How to consider the 3 championships, the 9-10 winning percentage at Ohio State the past year, and suspension that had many calling for his job, which he now relinquishes on his own volition, and what position Ohio State finds itself in going forward with Ryan Day. All that up for interpretation. For starters, today's press conference where Gene Smith saluted Urban's on the field and off the field record and called him an exemplary person. Jackie McMullen, we'll start with you. How will Urban Meyer be remembered at Ohio State?
Well, at Ohio State in particular, he'll be remembered as a guy who won them a national championship, because that's what football fans care about. And I would say nationally, he'll be remembered as a guy that won 3 national championships at 2 different schools. But you can't ignore the rest of it, Tony. This is a person who, at both stops, Florida and Ohio State, had one of the worst records in terms of player character, especially when it has to do with alleged domestic abuse incidents. And that has to be part of Urban Meyer going forward. Now, it's not like Woody Hayes. Woody Hayes won 5 national championships, Tony, but the first thing everybody thinks of is, oh, yeah, he's the guy that punched that player on the sideline. Mm-hmm. That won't be it with Urban Meyer. It won't be like that. But it will be a situation where there's going to be an addendum to all the wonderful football that he coached, because he is a fantastic football coach. But I'm sorry, you can't separate the two, and you should.
Kevin Blackistone, is that how you see it?
Well, I mean, I think that's true, but I think over time, a lot of that stuff will be pushed into the background. I mean, yeah, we say that about Woody Hayes, but, you know, the reason we think about Woody Hayes is because he's the greatest football coach in the history of Ohio State University, and all the championships and the Heisman Trophy winners he had and all that kind of thing. And I think that's the same thing with Urban Meyer. But, yes, that is a part of it. I mean, we as people are complicated. Our bios are not always neat and clean. And in this hashtag #MeToo movement and in the struggles that we're having with domestic violence, there's no question that Urban Meyer does not shine very well in this environment.
Tim Kalishaw?
Yeah, I got to mostly agree with KB. I think, you know, through the history of college football, there's been scandals, there's been recruiting violations, there's been this and that. And as time goes on, we look at coaches' records, and that's primarily what we're going to remember with Urban Meyer. I think we also have to be careful here. He's 54 years old, even though he has health issues now, and we saw them especially in the Maryland game, where there's a big timeout and the players and coaches are huddled, and he's over there with his hands on his knees looking at the ground. You can tell there's something really wrong that he needs to address, and we've heard some of those issues he has. But that doesn't mean he won't 2 or 3 years from now feel like getting back in. But for now, the 3 championships, and especially this, he's coached 17 seasons, and he's lost 22 conference games. He rarely loses Big Ten games and SEC games. Mm-hmm. He wins his conference games, and that's remarkable.
The record is remarkable, of course, as you said, Tim Kalishaw. And, I mean, Mount Rushmore of coaches or the best coaches of the last 40 years, certainly in that conversation. And I'm wondering how fair it is to have conversations about coaches when you're talking about records, when you're talking about off-the-field records, when you're providing, well, he was suspended for 3 games this season, but other coaches have had their teams get into trouble, legal trouble in the past, and it's not exactly in the first paragraph of their retirement speech. Woody Page, where are you with Urban Meyer today?
Well, you start with Newt Rockne and Frank Leahy, 2 great all-time coaches. He's 3rd. Urban Meyer is on the all-time percentage winning situation there. I met him when he was at Utah. I thought he was a young, brilliant coach. I loved the way he went for 2 in a tie game on 4th down and won it, and really didn't get the national recognition he deserved. But once he went to Florida and once he went on to Ohio State, I think he is in the upper platinum area of all football coaches. But you can't tell the Urban Meyer story without what Kevin's talked about, what Jackie talked about, what Tim brought up. You have to always mention that, just as those of us who grew up in the South and remembering Bear Bryant, you have to also remember that he wouldn't recruit African Americans to play at Alabama, even though he won 4 national championships. So I think every coach you have to kind of look at and say, well, let's isolate him as a coach, then let's talk about him as a person and a player. And that's the way we'll look at Urban Meyer throughout his career.
I think it was 6 championships for Bear Bryant. I'm just trying to process the whole thing seen through this season, I guess, Jackie McMullen, right? Because the suspension came for those first 3 games, and the conversation was, should he be out of a job at this point, to now coaching this year and now retiring under his own volition. So can you please at least provide that type of balance to the last year and then, of course, his whole career?
Well, we keep hearing over and over from people that are closer to this than me that he was very bothered by that 3-game suspension, that he didn't feel he deserved it. So that tells me Urban Meyer still doesn't really get this whole conversation that we're having outside the football field. So maybe Tim's right. Maybe that will draw him back. But here's the other thing, Tony, worth mentioning, I think. When he left Florida, he called it himself a broken football program. I don't think he wanted to do the same thing here at Ohio State. Ryan Day has been there for a while. He's an accomplished coach. I think he wanted to leave Ohio State in good shape going forward.
And how that team is going forward will be a conversation for another day. Thank you very much. We'll move on. Eagles 28, Washington 13. Let's talk about the Monday night game. 2 things from this game. It's the first time the defending champs have won back-to-back games since last year's Super Bowl. How absurd is that? And more absurd than that, Adrian Peterson. He had a 90-yard touchdown, and he didn't rush for 100 yards in the game. That's just bizarre. Whether it's time to take Washington out of the NFC East race and time to put Philadelphia back in, Tim, those are questions you can try to corral here. Is there reason for confidence with the defending champs now?
I think that there's a little bit of a lift today of Golden Tate getting involved in the Eagles' offense, Darren Sproles coming back and being effective. All year, Wentz has been a little short on the weapons at his disposal compared to a year ago. And now they're starting to collect enough that you saw, even with big mistakes, even with the 4th down failure at the goal line, even with Wentz throwing an interception later near the Washington goal line, they were moving the ball. They were keeping the ball. They had almost 2-to-1 time of possession. And the thing they have to do is right in front of them. It's a short week, but they're coming to Dallas. And if they want to get back in the race and they want to be tied for first in the East, then they know what they have to do Sunday.
KB, did you see a team rounding into form last night with Philadelphia, or just not there?
No, I think they've rounded into form a little bit. The problem is how much more they can round into form this late in the season with Dallas coming up. As Tim said, you know what you got to do there. The Rams after that, that's problematic. They've got a tough 4 games left. This is a team that they've got to be looking ahead, but they can't look ahead too far. Get a little bit of a running game, get Wentz looking like the Wentz that people thought he was, and, yeah, they can be a threat.
All right, so look ahead, but don't look ahead too far because that would be problematic. Problematic is problematic for you, and now you're looking ahead a little bit further than you were just looking. Jackie McMullen, how about you?
So, yes, Wentz looks better. And I think sometimes, I've said this before, Tony, I'll say it again, we think, oh, torn ACL, no big deal. Everybody comes back from that. He'll be perfectly fine. And I think we underestimate that time and time again. And I think we did so with Wentz. And I think Tim was right. The lack of a receiver that he can count on, a reliable receiver. I'm not talking about a tight end. I'm talking about an actual receiver that
So
can
they made the trade for Tate. It's taken a few weeks. But are they rounding into form with that relationship at least?
They're running to form with that relationship, but if you're asking me, if I'm a betting person, I'm going to bet against the Dallas Cowboys at this point in favor of the Eagles, I'm not going there.
All right, sure. You're Dallas all the way. Isn't that how you were born and raised? Didn't your father look like Tom Landry? I know this might be a little secret information. A dead ringer for Tom Landry. All right, there you go.
Yes, he
Woody
was.
Page, how about you?
It is.
Yes, they're rounding into form. The form of being a team that won't be in the playoffs. Exactly.
Okay.
Kevin sort of touched upon it. When you got the Cowboys and the Rams on the road and you played the Texans, who are another division winner at home, and you got to play Washington one more time on the road, 3 games on the road. I don't care whether the defense is a little bit improved except for a 90-yard run last night. Yeah. The offense is a bit improved, 85 yards rushing out of one player, and you got Sproles back. This is not a team that's going anywhere. So when you say round into shape, it's a rectangle.
So if they're okay, thank you very much. If they're not going anywhere, I can assume you feel Washington's not going anywhere. Kevin Blackiston, let me ask you this, since you're in Washington. Where does this team go from here, since it's not going to be the postseason because they don't have a quarterback at this moment and they don't have half their roster?
Well, they don't go very far. Their season should be
Oh, I
over.
understand that, but
And,
do they go to a move at the coaching position, at the front office position, clean house?
They've got to start. They've got to start all over now. You're not going to have Alex Smith, man. He's out of the way. You're going to have to go out and find a quarterback all over again. That means who are you going to rely on to select the
I hear all that,
quarterback?
but what I'm asking is point blank.
The owner.
Bruce Allen running this team, does he have to go? Jay Gruden coaching this team, does he have to go?
Bruce Allen should have been gone. He shouldn't be here right now. Gruden, it's up to whoever comes in to take over. And as far as the rest of the team, the way this roster is put together, it needs to be shaken up as well.
We'll move on. One more story from the NFL. MMQB and Albert Breer reporting that Sam Darnold of the Jets was healthy, back to 100%. Campaigned to play this past week, but was still made inactive by Todd Bowles, who went with Josh McCown in the loss to Tennessee. Bowles saying Darnold could have played, but he needed more reps. Woody Page, I want to get your take on this. How do you hear that?
Well, I hear that Bowles doesn't want to prepare Darnold for his successor next year. That's what I hear out of this. If he said he was ready to play and you assume the medical staff said he could play again, he should have been out there maybe staying after practice and getting another 100 reps if that's the reason why. There's no reason in this world to start McCown at this point unless Bowles just thinks he might get one more game. He's not going to be there after this year. Help the kid out like every other quarterback, young quarterback.
No, I don't have a problem with a coach trying to win football games, and whether it's to save his butt for his job or just to win games, as a former Jet coach used to talk about why you play these games. Sam Darnold hasn't been good. He turned the ball over at USC. He's turned it over this year. He may think it's better to have him watch for a little while.
He was sacked 8 times in his last 3 games. That offensive line up there is being patched together. He's in a bad situation right now. I don't know what point it is in bringing him back on a bad foot behind that line with a losing team.
Sacked 8 times in 3 games. That's not a whole lot, Kevin Blackistone. That's a two per game.
No, but that's
terrible.
more than previously.
Jackie Mack.
One game would have been.
Yeah, Todd Bowles is dead man walking, and I'm with Tim. He's going to do whatever he takes to have to win a few more games. It's not going to save his job. He's, at this point, just doing what he feels is right as a football.
That's like a panelist at the end of a segment, just doing whatever they can to get those points. You know, Jackie Mack, I disclosed some information that your children, or you thought your dad looked like Tom Landry. Kalishaw's children think he looks like Josh Brolin. Does anybody agree with this? Ben and Rachel Kalishaw think that Tim Kalishaw looks like Josh Brolin. We'll get to the bottom of that and buy or sell.
I give him thumbs up.
Yeah, Josh Brolin, if he was given an extra.
Fortunate.
Woody Page in the lead going into buy or sell, but there's a bonus point out there for Tim Kalishaw if he's got a Josh Brolin impression.
What am I supposed to do? Chase Javier Bardem all over the border? How do I do that here? I don't. Oh, he's flipping
And
coins over
Blackistone, I love your Tom Landry impression. We'll move on. Buy or sell 1. The Packers head coaching search and hire will not include input from Aaron Rodgers. That's coming from President Mark Murphy. Also, Murphy, Rodgers was not the reason McCarthy was fired. Woody Page, buy or sell?
I'm selling. Murphy needs a new law. Of course, Aaron Rodgers was responsible for McCarthy being not there anymore. If he'd had a better year and hadn't been hurt and hadn't called him out, and of course he's going to be involved in the next coach. They're not going to hire someone he doesn't like.
Tim Kalishaw?
I'm selling the Packers' paranoia here. I don't know what's so hard about just saying Aaron Rodgers has been a great player, big part of our success for a decade, and, you know, while nobody's directly involved in the search, he'll have any input he wants into what will make the Packers great.
Kevin Blackistone?
Easy to do.
How could he not have input? He just signed a record contract that's taken him for 4 more seasons, and he's a centerpiece of the franchise. Of course you got to talk to Aaron Rodgers.
Jackie McMullen.
This is semantics, Tony. The Packers want to say, well, Aaron Rodgers didn't say, hey, that coach has got to go. But by publicly calling him out, by this not so anonymous feud that's been going on between them, of course that played the most major role in Mike McCarthy's credibility being worn down. And of course they're going to ask him. They'd be crazy not to.
They'd be crazy not to.
Ask Aaron
Would it be running the risk of making him unhappy if they don't? That's the other part of this, because we all know what happens if you have an unhappy Aaron Rodgers. Well, we'll see where it goes. Something tied to this, not exactly relating, but who's next and who would be the best offensive quarterback in mind for Aaron Rodgers? Some thought it could be Cliff Kingsbury, which would be kind of wild to jump from college to the pros, but maybe that was just for an OC position. But that's now out the window. Buy or sell 2, is Kingsbury accepting the OC position at USC? Tim, buy or sell Kingsbury to USC?
Oh, I got to buy this. I mean, he has been great with young 19, 20-year-old quarterbacks from Manziel to Mahomes and all the other guys at Tech that he has worked with, and they'll get great quarterbacks at USC. It'll lead to something better for him, but it's not a bad place to go for now.
KB?
Oh, absolutely agree. Bring the air raid offense to Southern California. That's a great fit. It's all about scoring points in football right now, and there's nobody that puts up better points than Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, this is a great hire for USC, and I think it's also he should send a box of chocolates and maybe some flowers to Patrick Mahomes, because everybody to do with Patrick Mahomes, everybody around his aura looks a lot better every single
Well,
day.
didn't exactly help him at Texas Tech this season. And how about you, Woody Page?
You guys are buried the lead. He's there as a coach in waiting. The moment Clay Helton has any kind of tumble, he's going to be replaced by Kingsbury, and you know that. They know it.
Buy or sell 3, Tua, Kyler, and Haskins. It's the final 3 for the Heisman. But just something I want to let marinate in your head a little bit. Alabama and Oklahoma meeting in 3 weeks. Anyway, maybe the Heisman should happen after the bowl games, so you can at least see when you have guys pitted next to each other who wins on the field. It's just a pipe dream, Kevin. You can address that, or who you buying, who you selling for the trophy.
I'm going to buy your pipe dream for this one instance, yeah, but not just because of that game, also because of the game on the other side of the ledger where you got Haskins. I know he's a 60-1 odds favorite to win the Heisman, but 4,500 passing yards, 47 touchdowns.
No, he's got great numbers. Wait, you have Haskins for the Heisman just because he lit up Northwestern last week? I knew that's where that was coming back to. How about you, Jackie?
Now, this is a two-man race. It's either Tua or Kyler Murray, and they both have been fantastic. I love this year's Heisman. There's actually some drama to it. You could pick either one of these guys. Their numbers are like video game numbers. And don't forget that, gosh, excuse
Kyler.
me. I've lost my train. Kyler Murray, thank you, sorry, also rushed for nearly 1,000 yards.
Yes.
I like
so
him.
you like the drama. Would there be more drama, enhanced drama, if they were giving out the trophy after the bowl games? Woody Page, you want to address that?
Yeah, you take your pipe dream and stick it in your sneakers. You are so wrong about that. But I'm going to go with Murray, because if Tua weren't the starter at Alabama, who would be the starter? The guy who had an undefeated record on the field. And Murray was the difference in Oklahoma, either going to the playoffs or going into obscurity this year.
Okay. And how about you, Kalisha?
I mean, I think your pipe dream works for this year because all 3 quarterbacks will be playing around the same time. But there are times where it doesn't fit. It's got to be a regular season award. I think Tua was miles ahead a month ago, but I think Kyler passed him over the weekend.
All right. And Tim Kalisha, you have a vote for said award, right?
I do have a vote. I'll be revealing it after they reveal theirs. I respect the process.
Okay. All right. I'm not trying to get you in trouble
You
here.
can figure out what I just said.
I think all right, well, out of respect for the process here, can we respect the showdown process? Paige, Kalisha, it is the, it's the #1 ranking showdown in Around the Horn history. It's met more times than any other matchups. Paige, Kalisha, 2 minutes. Paige and showdown, and Tim leads it 76-75. Good luck, gentlemen. Showdown 1, Kobe Bryant.
Enjoy the journey. We'll be champions before you know it. We'll just be laughing at all the Warrior fans who all of a sudden
That's right. Bandwagoners, come on.
You laughing with the Lakers fans here, Woody, or at them?
At them. He knew exactly what his crowd was. It was Lakers fans. I'd like to see him say that in front of Warriors fans who've been very strong for their team for a lot of years.
I'm going to laugh with them. While the Warriors have always had local, great fans there, they have come out of the woodwork the last 3 years. People who couldn't find Oakland on a map.
Okay, all right, true. Although I argue the other way, that if you chose the team, go cheer for them. Doesn't really matter. We'll move on. Showdown 2, NHL expansion. Seattle is getting a team. Woody Page, you're going to have to name them and name how good this is for the sport.
Oh, I've got the perfect name. I think Seattle certainly deserves a team's pilots, Supersonics, but the new name is Seattle Meanakhimes.
Not a great name, but a great person. I'm going to go with the Seattle Thunderbirds. They've had a great run as a major junior team. The people up there have supported them. That's why they're got all those 25,000 deposits for an NHL team.
All right.
It's a good hockey team.
Woody Page is not getting a FaceTime there. Tim Kalisha, enjoy it.
Right. I know what a sandwich is.
While I'm happy for Seattle and also happy to continue to my winning ways against Woody, I don't know that 32 teams is in the greatest interest of the National Hockey League for two reasons. One, now that's 16 teams that don't make the playoffs. You know what happens to coaches that don't make the playoffs in the NHL? They get fired very quickly, faster than any other sport. Also, does the NHL really have enough superstars to spread around 32 different teams? I think that's tough. I liked it with 26 teams. Maybe we need a little contraction next.
That's going to do it, folks. Thanks for coming around. A 23.5-hour break. We'll see you tomorrow around the horn.